Good afternoon, everybody. Just to let you know, we're just adjourning for a couple of minutes because we're waiting for an objector to come online. So hopefully won't keep you waiting too long. Are you able to put your camera on, please? Hello? Mr. Folger, can you hear us? Yeah, we're going to try and sort out the sound because it's very echoey. And have you managed to turn your camera on as well? Are you able to speak again, please? Mr. Folger. Are you still with us, Mr. Folger? Are you able to speak? We seem to be able to hear you now, so. Are you able to speak again, just so we can check the sound? Thank you. The live stream will now be paused. Is everything still okay? You can still hear us, Mr. Folger?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much.
Thank goodness. Apologies to our applicants and obviously others that are here today. Right, we will get started. Item 6 on the agenda today, I'll just quickly go round. On the committee today, you've got myself, Councillor Joe Henderson, you've got Councillor Andrew Cousins and Councillor Dan Casey on the committee. Councillor Bill Davison is our standby member today. So we will now move to item 6, which is the report of the Assistant Director, Corporate Policy and Support A2, grant of a premises licence for Alresford Hall, Ford Lane, Alresford, Colchester, CO7 8AJ. Sorry. Found on pages 63 to 154.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, Chair and members. We're here today to hear an application submitted for a grant of a premises licence under the Licensing Act 2003. Application number 2600171 Prem GR. This application is in relation to a time-limited premises licence for Alresford Hall, Ford Lane, Alresford, for a historical reenactment event organised by the Sealed Knots. The applicant has described the area as a rural estate land within Alresford Hall. The designated land to include a demonstration field for the reenactment and the display, a food and drink village with seating, and a series of craft stalls holders. There will be another area for public parking. The Sealed Knots reenactors have their own separate camping field with a bar and amplified music. The applicant has applied for the following: sale of alcohol on the public event Sunday the 24th of May and Monday the 25th of May, 10 till 1700 hours. The performance of play Sunday the 24th and Monday the 25th of May, 1400 hours to 1600 hours. The reenactment area for the campsite, we've got the sale of alcohol Thursday the 21st of May, 1800 hours to 2200. Friday the 22nd of May, 12 till 2300. Saturday the 23rd and 24th of May, 11 till midnight. Monday the 25th of May, 11 till 2000 hours. With late night refreshments on the 23rd and 24th between 2300 hours and midnight. And live music Saturday the 23rd and Sunday the 24th of May, 1900 hours to 2300 hours. These details can be found in the report on page 64 for clarification, with a location plan on page 70 and 91. The applicant has outlined steps in the application to promote the 4 licensing objectives. These messages can be found on page 90, with additional information that has been circulated to residents on pages 71 to 75. The applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Marsden, are here today, together with Jenny Davies from the Sealed Knots, to put their application forward and answer any questions you may have. This event was reviewed by the Tendering Safety Advisory Group, whose membership includes officers from relevant council departments, together with external partners such as Essex Police, East of England Ambulance, Essex County Council Highways, and other emergency public bodies. Members are advised that the Safety Advisory Group is not a statutory consultee under the Licensing Act, and any discussions or advice provided by the Safety Advisory Group does not form part of the licensing process. Representations can be made either against or in support of the application. All responsible authorities have been consulted as standard practice. One representation was received by Essex, by the Council's Environmental Protection Team. However, this has been withdrawn due to a receipt of the Noise Impact Assessment and Noise Management Plan, which has been reviewed by the team and agreed conditions added to the premises licence should this be granted. We have members of the Environmental Protection Team here today should members wish to have any clarification. I can confirm that a copy of the Noise Management Plan and Noise Impact Assessment has also been circulated to the representations on the 28th of April for information. A copy of this can be found within the bundle. 2 letters of no objections have been received from the Council's Planning Services and Essex County Council Child Protection, who are responsible authorities, and they can be found on pages 175 and 176. 7 representations have been received from members of public, and these can be found on pages 117 to 169. Members will also have received a supplementary document from Mr. Folger after the report had been prepared, following the submission of the Noise Impact Assessment and the Noise Management Plan. We have Mr. Folger attending on Teams today to put his case across as the objector. Each application must be considered in its own rights and on its own merits, only on how it might impact the 4 licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, public safety, and the protection of children from harm. All of the relevant human rights information and Section 182 guidance is detailed within the report. Chair and members, you're therefore asked to determine the application, taking into account in its own right and merits, as well as all the information that has been submitted today and part of the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move to the applicant, do we have any questions at this time for our licensing officer? No. Oh, Councillor Casey.
Same question. No problems with the police.
Essex Police was part of the Safety Advisory Group, but for the Licensing Act consultee, they've put no objections.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll move to the applicant if you'd like to speak. Thank you, Mrs. Marsden.
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Susie Marsden, and this is Will Marsden. We're the joint applicants for this licence, time-limited licence. And on my right is Colonel Jenny Davey, who is Officer Commanding City of London Brigade of the Sealed Knot. So it's a family-focused heritage event delivered in partnership with the Sealed Knot, a nationally established historical reenactment society with over 50 years of experience of safely delivering historical and educational events throughout the country. It's primarily a daytime public event centred on historical interpretation and education, with limited and controlled evening activity for reenactors only. A comprehensive event management plan was developed by the Sealed Knot and Alresford Hall. This was considered by the Safety Advisory Group on the 9th of March, and recommendations from them incorporated into the final version. And before turning to the representations from objectors, which we have analysed in depth, the principal issue was raised was all to do with noise and public nuisance. And you've just heard from Michael that we did commission an independent acoustic consultant, Sharps Redmore, to carry out a full noise impact assessment and a detailed noise management plan, both of which were submitted. And as you've just heard, the environmental team, we worked very closely with them and have agreed to a condition to the licence which effectively controls the decibels at source for the reenactors' music to 90 decibels at source with predicted levels of approximately 48 at the nearest residential receptors, as well as directional speaker placement, bass control, active monitoring, logging, and immediate adjustment where required. And in relation to the actual battle reenactment, activity is limited to just 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on each of the days. There's no morning firing, no evening firing, restricted cannon numbers, no cumulative volleys, reduced charges, and directional firing away from residential properties. And the environmental team have confirmed that they're satisfied with these controls and that the reenactment activity is unlikely to constitute public nuisance. And so obviously we've undertaken to accept that condition. And against that background, I'll turn to the actual representations made from 7 separate objectors. Obviously, since a lot of those were submitted, many of the concerns have been now either fully addressed or materially mitigated through the comprehensive event management plan, the noise impact assessment, the noise management plan, and discussions with the environmental team. So just to assist the committee, we have grouped the objections by topic and licensing objective, and I'll now address these in turn. So also under the heading of noise and public nuisance, not just covered, were concerns over the use of black powder, generators, and waste servicing. So in respect of black powder, the use of it is confined to the immediate battlefield area and it disperses within that contained location. Generators, concerns were raised about the noise emanating from those. In practice, that is confined to 2 food traders for the reenactors who share power to the reenactors' beer tent in order to minimize equipment and noise. They're located within that area, screened by nearby woodland, and are considered highly unlikely to impact nearby residents. I understand they're quiet generators anyway. Waste and servicing. All waste collection activity and toilet servicing will take place during daytime hours only. Bottle disposal and operational servicing are controlled through the event management plan and the noise management plan and will not take place during the evening. And that summarised every complaint under the heading of noise and public nuisance. Then moving to traffic and access. Objectors raised concerns regarding the use of the internal estate lane. There's an estate lane which all the properties have to use to access their properties. The impact on nearby properties and congestion and access. So those matters are all addressed through the event management plan and the traffic management arrangements. Event traffic is routed in and out of the estate via the Wivenwood main entrance along the B1027, so that residents maintain access to their properties along the estate lane, internal lane, at all times. There will be no event traffic or members of the public passing by any of the residential properties on the estate. They are routed through other internal estate routes. Car parking marshals and event stewards will be in place to control movement and flow of the public. There are temporary barriers, posts and rope, as well as marshals and stewards to prevent members of the public from roaming anywhere. There are cordoned off exclusion zones around Lodge Cottage, West Cottage and Hall Cottage inside the estate to protect their privacy and immunity. So the traffic is therefore planned, routed and controlled. The next one, public safety, concerns were raised regarding weapons, horses, cannon and musket use, and the nature of the reenactment itself. And in response, I mean, as I've said, the event is delivered by the Sealed Knot with over 50 years of operational experience and a reputation, a good reputation. There's a clear safety structure, including health and safety director, powder master, arena control and supervision, medical teams and ambulance provision, emergency and evacuation procedures. The use of black powder is subject to strict operational control, and importantly, the use of alcohol in connection with black powder activities is not permitted under the restrictions attached to the relevant gunpowder licenses issued by the police authority. This is reflected both in Sealed Knot policy and in the obligations placed upon individual participants operating under those licenses. And then turning to crime and disorder, concerns were raised relating to alcohol, behaviour and security. The key points there in response are: the reenactors' campsite is private and not open to the public. It is supervised 24 hours of the day. The event management plan incorporates event policies and procedures which include Challenge 25, refusal procedures, incident logging, removal powers, and a clear command structure. Protection of children from harm. It is a family-focused heritage event. The event management plan includes lost child procedures, safeguarding protocols, welfare and first aid provision, advanced guidance regarding noise and sensory impacts. And general comments were made more generally about attendance levels, suitability of the location, and the nature of the event generally. The attendance is managed and controlled through ticketing, the site layout, traffic management and stewarding, and operational controls. The event is time limited and planned in detail. Professionally managed through the Sealed Knot, with its reputation for running very well managed events. Other concerns were raised which amount to general opposition to the event or the principle of events at the estate, rather than matters directly relating to the licensing objectives. So in conclusion, the principal concerns, particularly noise, have now been independently assessed, reviewed by the Environmental Protection Team, and are subject to agreed and enforceable controls. The remaining matters are addressed through the event management plan and operational management systems. So we therefore contend that the application fully promotes the licensing objectives. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions from our councillors at this time to the applicant? No. Are there any questions of clarification from Mr. Folger at this time? You'll obviously have your chance to speak as an objector, so if there are any points of clarification you would like. Thank you.
Sorry, if that was addressed to me, I could barely hear anything. But let me know when my opportunity is to make my broader points, please.
So you have no points of clarification you would like from the applicant?
There probably are, but I couldn't actually hear anything she said, unfortunately. But that is what it is.
You could have told us that you couldn't hear?
Yeah, I didn't
If
want
you'd
to
have
interrupt, but
made us aware.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
You can hear me
I can,
though. Can you hear
yeah,
me?
I can hear you. I can hear you very clearly. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, to ask you. Um, will there be any traffic coming through or driving through Ford Lane? Thank you.
Very limited. The beer delivery truck, the horses that come in, 2 or
It's
3.
only 4 horse boxes. We're directing all other cavalry will actually be coming in via the Withenwood entrance, but the 4 horse boxes will actually come in via the private gates on Ford Lane. And that's it.
If you can bear with me, some of the questions I had you've already answered, so I don't want to ask them because I know I've heard them. My other one was, where will the marshals be sited?
Sorry.
Where will the marshals be sited?
So most of the marshals are in the car park to obviously organise that and any coach drop-offs. And where visitors leave the car park and there's one point where they cross the estate lane, there'll be 2 marshals there. Oh, I'm sorry. Better? So there's one point where visitors cross the estate lane to go from the car park to the event area, and there'll be 2 marshals stationed there to ensure that residents can freely pass back and forth.
Yes, we will also have marshals that will be there 24/7 as well as part of our security team, and they will be predominantly based 24 hours a day on both Gate C by Lodge Cottage, but also on the crossroads between the campsite and the battlefield, and that's for security purposes to make sure obviously people from the public are not coming on and off our site, but also for anything that we may well need. You know, we are obviously going to be there 24 hours, so we need to make sure that we have security, but also as a command centre as well for any eventualities. And we will also, during the hours of Friday from 12 noon until sort of about 10 o'clock at night, and also during Saturday, which are the primary sort of hours and days for people for our society arriving, we will also have people on the main entrance for Withenwood as well, to make sure that again they have got clear direction along the traffic management plan, just to make sure that if there's any questions we can deal with them there and then as well.
And I've just got 2 further ones. One is the wind down period, obviously in the reenactment area. Have you made any sort of provision for that at all?
Do you mean in the evening, or do you mean on the Monday afternoon?
Yeah, in the evening.
In the evening, okay. So
in the
around the beer
evenings.
tent, is that you're referring to? Okay. So obviously on the Saturday and Sunday we have a band on which finishes strictly at 11 o'clock, and then ultimately the sale of alcohol generally stops at that point as well. Last orders are called, and the wind down period is effectively what that extra hours is until 12 o'clock. And our beer tent provisioner Richie actually makes sure that the doors are closed, everybody is out, so we give them the hour to finish their pint and leave.
Thanks for that clarification. And my last one is ticket sales. What numbers are you anticipating, or what have you sold up to date?
We did say to the safety advisory group that we would cap ticket sales at 3,000. It's all online, and that's our intent. And we're not quite there yet. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from anyone else? No? And we haven't got any of the responsible authorities wanting to speak, so we will now go to the objector, which is Mr. Folger. If you'd like to put your case forward? Obviously, we've got your written objections, which we've all read, but you can put your case forward. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm assuming you can all hear me fine. Great, if you could just confirm that, and then I will get going.
Yes, I think we can all hear you. I can hear you anyway. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for the licensing team for accommodating me joining online. I can't be there in person due to work commitments. And thank you for your patience at the beginning around the technology issues. Tech can be a bit frustrating even in the 21st century. So thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of the subcommittee. I object to this application because it creates a serious and foreseeable risk of public nuisance and public safety harm in a quiet, rural, residential locality. My point is simple. This application asks the subcommittee to license a large, disruptive, 5-day festival on a small residential estate without adequate assessment of the actual combined event, without proper visibility over core management arrangements, and without the minimum enforceable controls residents have requested. This is not a modest private function. It is advertised as involving approximately 1,000 reenactors, roaring cannons, muskets, artillery, and cavalry, together with public attendance, camping, alcohol, late night refreshment, amplified music, and public battle reenactments. The question is whether the subcommittee can be satisfied that the licensing objectives, particularly prevention of public nuisance and public safety, will be promoted. In my respectful submission on the material currently before you, it cannot. Public nuisance means loss of residential amenity. This is not just about whether residents might hear some noise. Tendering's own licensing policy, section 5.1, says the licensing authority wishes to maintain and protect the amenity of residents. Section 5.2 says tendering applies a wide interpretation to public nuisance, including noise, light, litter, antisocial behaviour, and other matters affecting those living, working, and otherwise engaged in normal activity in an area. That is exactly the issue here. Residents are being asked to accept thousands of people descending for 5 days onto a small, quiet, rural residential estate with no known history of comparable activity. For that period, the character of the estate would be transformed by public attendees, reenactors, camping, alcohol, late night activity, music, vehicles, security, marshals, muskets, drums, and cannon fire. That is a direct interference with ordinary residential amenity, using gardens, opening windows, walking dogs, enjoying quiet evenings, sleeping, and using private shared access without public event spillover. This is not about residents demanding silence. It is about whether a 5-day festival of this scale is compatible with the quiet residential estate without very strict controls. Applicant conduct and late material. The way this application has been managed is itself concerning. This hearing is taking place only a week before the event is due to start. That is extraordinary for an event of this scale and complexity. The noise impact assessment and noise management plan were only circulated to residents after the public consultation period had closed. A full event management plan has still not been shared with residents in a form that allows any scrutiny. That matters because that includes all the basic operational issues such as parking, access, pedestrian routing, stewarding, security, etc. Residents have had zero visibility of any of these matters. The subcommittee should ask itself, if key management details are still unclear in the days before the hearing and only days before the event, how can it be satisfied that the licensing objectives will be promoted in practice? At best, this has been poorly managed, and at worst, it gives the impression that the licensing process is being treated as a formality after the event has already been effectively committed to. It is also worth noting at this point that there are other events being advertised by the applicant where the applicant is advertising them as having licensed.
Mr. Folger, we can only look at what's before us today, so if you can obviously carry on. Yep. Thank you.
Understood. I'd like to briefly touch on the character and the estate of the estate and the locality. So the applicant may present Alresford Hall as an established events venue. That is not the reality. This is a quiet, rural, residential estate. Alresford Hall itself is residential. There are private residential homes on and around the estate, 7 others in total. It's not Blenheim Palace. It's not a large isolated estate where high impact event activity is separated from residents by vast distances. It is a small shared estate with a fundamental residential character. The applicant might say, oh, but there is Wivenwood, which is a separately sectioned part of the estate. Wivenwood was justified on the basis that it would be separate, screened, and controlled so as not to interfere with residential amenity. This proposal is different. It spreads high impact licensed activity across the estate with public attendance, camping, alcohol, late night entertainment, reenactors, muskets, and cannon fire. There is no known history of an event of this scale or character at this location. Long-standing residents, some of whom have lived locally for around 40 years, are not aware of anything comparable. The applicant's own noise material recognises the low rural background noise environment. Noise and activity which might be tolerable in a town centre or established major events venue can be highly intrusive in a quiet rural residential setting. In my view, this event has not been properly assessed. The applicant's noise assessment does not assess the event as advertised and proposed. The event is promoted as involving 1,000 reenactors, cannons, muskets, artillery, cavalry, drums, crowds, camping, alcohol, and late night entertainment. But the assessment looks at fragments in isolation: one cannon, one musket, 100 drums, and music in a marquee, all separately and individually. That's not how residents experience sound. Residents experience the whole event: the cannon fire, the musket fire, the drums, the crowd noise, the announcements, the bar activity, the camping, the vehicle movements, the music, and the late night dispersal together. That is the central flaw. The assessment does not answer the real licensing question. What will this 5-day festival actually be like at the nearest home, garden, and residential access? Tendering Council's own policies and guidance support strict controls. Section 5.3 of your licensing policy says that licensing authority may apply stricter conditions, including controls on licensing hours, where licensed premises are in residential areas and relevant representations have been received. Section 5.5 says applicants are expected to demonstrate appropriate and proportionate measures to prevent public nuisance relevant to the individual style and characteristics of the premises and events. Section 5.6 identifies exactly the risk factors here: proximity to residential premises, the operating hours late at night, and whether activities are inside or outside. Section 5.7 identifies the type of controls residents are asking for: control of operating hours, including garden or outside areas, sound limitation devices, and management of people and traffic arriving and leaving, and adoption of best practice guidance. That last point matters. If best practice guidance is to be followed, it cannot be relied on selectively. The applicant's material refers to shooting noise guidance as an example, including clay pigeon shooting guidance, but then seeks to dismiss or avoid the stricter parts of that guidance where they are inconvenient, including the substantial separation distances normally referred to for shooting activity near noise-sensitive premises. The Essex Environmental Health Guidance is even more direct. It says acceptable noise depends on the time of day, activity type, and background noise. It says music, singing, speech, and bass can be intrusive. It says outside noise is likely to cause more disturbance. Page 9 of that policy says outside areas where disturbance may arise should normally cease by dusk or 9 p.m, whichever is earlier. It also says amplified music or voices should usually be restricted to indoor activities only, and specifically identifies marquees and tents used for entertainment as not being indoor activity. That is critical here. The applicant may say the music is inside a marquee. That should not be accepted. A marquee is not an acoustically enclosed building. The applicant's own noise assessment material accepts that the marquee provides little or negligible noise attenuation. So if the subcommittee is asked to allow amplified music in a marquee until 11 o'clock, late night refreshment until midnight, and alcohol bar activity until midnight, it is being asked to directly contradict Tendering's own policy, environmental health guidance, and best practice approach. Residents say there is no credible reason to do that here. In terms of the specific public nuisance risks, residents are particularly concerned about 5 issues: late night entertainment, the amplified sound, cannon fire, camping, and use of the shared residential track. On the late night entertainment, the risk is not just the music level, it is bass breakout, raised voices, alcohol-related noise, people leaving the marquee and moving back to tents that are in proximity of tens of meters of residential properties, people stumbling back after drinking all night to their tents in the dark. It will clearly create significant disruption, all in a quiet rural setting. Residents' position is therefore that all amplified music, late night refreshment, external bar activity, and other avoidable noisy activity should cease by 9 p.m. in line with Essex environmental health guidance. On amplified sound, there's a important point here. The noise assessment only assesses music in the reenactor's marquee or bar. It does not assess any other battlefield PA, commentary, public announcements, outdoor speakers, or amplifying sound anywhere else on site. I did share a video with the committee that I'm not sure if they received and listened to, but that was of
Yes, we
amplified
did.
music.
Just to clarify, yes, we did.
Thank you. So that was a recording at my property, Hall Cottage, whereby on occasions historically there has been amplified music played by the applicant that has caused significant disruption that is audible inside our home with our windows shut, that completely disturbed our ability to work at home. There is, significant worry and anxiety about amplified sound, particularly where it has not been assessed. So so basically, if any outdoor noise, except for what's in the tent, is being proposed, the assessment is deficient because it hasn't measured that or assessed that. So if it is proposed, in which case it should be expressly prohibited. Cannon fire. So cannon fire is one of the most serious concerns. The assessment is based on one cannon fire at a separate site with 6 shots, but the noise management plan allows for 4 cannons per army with 8 cannons and 6 shots per cannon. That's 48 cannon shots over a 2-hour battle period, or 96 shots across Sunday and Monday. If evenly spread across each battle, that is the equivalent of 1 cannon discharge every 2.5 minutes for 2 hours. The applicant's own assessment refers to clay target shooting guidance as relevant, but then dismisses its stricter methodology as not directly appropriate. That is not adequately explained. Shooting noise guidance normally refers to substantial separation distances from noise-sensitive premises, including around 1 kilometre or more, depending on direction, context, and conditions. Here, cannon fire every 2.5 minutes for 2 hours is proposed in a much shorter distance to residential homes, within a few hundred metres. The impact of this activity is going to be significant. Other residents will have to tranquilize their horses, leave their properties, relocate their elderly parents, so that there is not significant harm and damage caused by this repeated cannon firing. It is simply not credible to suggest that residents should be expected to sit in their gardens on a bank holiday weekend while cannons are fired every few minutes nearby for 2 hours, and that this does not amount to public nuisance or loss of amenity. Indeed, event attendees are even encouraged to bring ear defenders. Residents' primary position is that there should therefore be no cannon fire, or if the subcommittee is not prepared to go that far, then it should be severely restricted so that there are not more than a total of 6 cannon shots per day. In terms of camping safety and the shared track is the only access for residents. We've heard that there may be some marshals on site. I question whether there are anywhere near enough marshals for potentially 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people in total each day. And how separation will be ensured between private residences and event activity. The applicant has put forward that no event traffic will pass Lodge Cottage, West Cottage, or Hall Cottage. This must be made an enforceable condition. There should be no event-related vehicle pedestrian movement past these homes or along the shared residential track except in emergency, and that should include all public attendees, reenactors, staff, traders, contractors, suppliers, and servicing vehicles. And there must be physical and operational controls to prevent public or reenactor spillover into residential areas. One other aspect that is very concerning is the consumption of alcohol by reenactors into the late night. These events are dangerous. The Sealed Knot itself has been involved in events that have led to fires, very dangerous accidents, and you see this year after year. I think last year at Blenheim Palace a few years ago, there was an explosion and an air ambulance was required. Last year, someone had a sword through their throat. The concept that reenactors are drinking till midnight, dehydrated, hungover, and then conducting this high-risk activity is a recipe for disaster. So that's a further point why the late night activity, late night entertainment, and late night alcohol should also cease at 9 alongside the public nuisance aspect. I've already highlighted the flaws in the noise management plan, so I won't go through those again. But I would just like to quickly summarise what residents see as the minimum viable conditions to ensure the licensing objectives are met.
To do a closing statement at the end if you need to say anything else. So if you wanted to say anything later on, you can bring that up. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So residents' minimum conditions to ensure the licensing objectives are positively promoted are the following: that there should be no amplified music, late night refreshment, external bar or campsite activity after 9 o'clock. There should be no PA, amplified speech, commentary, announcements or amplified sound outside of the assessed marquee or tent area, except for emergency safety announcements. There should be no cannon fire, or if the committee is not prepared to go that far, it should be reduced to 6 shots per day in total. There should be live monitoring at agreed residential locations with defined thresholds, and that data should be shared with environmental health and residents. There should also be a process where there are immediate reductions if the noise becomes too high. There should be a quiet campsite regime after 9 p.m. with active security and marshalling. No event-related vehicle pedestrian movements should pass the residential properties except in emergency. And that should be enforced with signage and marshals. And yeah, I think there should be a named event manager or 24-hour resident contact number to be provided to residents so that complaints, incidents, noise interventions and security issues can be logged and dealt with immediately. So in terms of my closing statement, the concern is that this is a large...
No, you will have time later on to do your closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have you finished now, Mr. Folger?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have any questions from the committee to Mr. Folger at all? No. Are there any questions from the applicant or from anyone else for clarification for anything? Yep, if you'd like to go ahead, Mr. Marsden. Thank you.
Thank you. One question. We're speaking to a single objector, but he suggested he is speaking for and on behalf of the others. Does he have evidence that he has their permission to speak for them?
Would you like to respond to that clarification? Thank you.
Yeah. If that's a material point for the licensing committee, I can provide whatever evidence they want. I haven't claimed that I'm speaking for X number of people, but I know that there's been, there's been objections from other people across the estate. So this isn't just a single objection. I think there's a number of wider objections that the licensing committee has seen.
So can you confirm that you are speaking just on your own behalf, Mr. Folger? Thank you.
I can confirm that this is on behalf of other residents as well.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Folger at all, for clarification for anything? No. Right, so we'll now move on to the closing statements. So any of the objectors, if you've got a closing statement you'd like to make, Mr. Folger, now's your time. Thank you.
I will. Thank you very much. So in closing, the concern is that this is a large, disruptive and unprecedented licensed event in a quiet residential rural setting. and the application does not provide sufficient assurance that the licensing objectives will be promoted. Even with the residents' minimum controls, this event would remain highly disruptive. Without them, given the scale, timing, and location of the event, it is not credible to suggest that the licensing objectives, particularly prevention of public nuisance and public safety, will be promoted. The question for the subcommittee is therefore simple. Can it be satisfied that the licensing objectives will be promoted if these minimum controls are not secured? In my respectful submission, it cannot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Folger. We'll now move to the applicant. If you've got closing statements, any of you you'd like to make, we'll listen to them. Thank you.
Yes, hi. I suppose first and foremost, I would just like to clarify that, you know, the CILDNOT is a heritage, educational and family organisation. We're not sort of putting on a Glastonbury type festival. You know, most of us, to be honest with you, have small children or, you know, children of a reasonable age. So we're not up until, you know, the early hours creating all sorts of mayhem. I understand obviously Mr. Folger's concerns, but certainly would like to stress that point as well. And the hour wrap up after the music is to ensure that we can stay within licensing laws that are laid down, and majority of the time obviously things are moved away well before that. So but a couple of points that obviously to address around things. The noise management plan itself obviously addresses the noise, and also states within the bounds of the residential properties on the edge of the estates that this is within acceptable bounds for the noise management plan. The environmental team have also accepted that as given as well. And we've also, you know, Ms. Folger stating around reducing the cannons to 6 shots in total. To give you some idea, we have actually already restricted for this event. We normally would have 12 cannons in total, firing between 4 and 6 ounces of powder a shot, and they would also be firing 24 shots each cannon. So we have severely restricted this down. We only have in total 8 cannons booked in, and we have also curtailed these to only 2 ounces. Now, the noise management plan is actually based on 4 ounces. So we are also coming in well under that, just to make sure that, again, we are taking the concerns of the residents, you know, within as well, and trying to mitigate as much as possible for them. We have also agreed to the environmental team's restriction around 6 shots per cannon in total. So as part of the script that I have put together, this will actually take place within the first half of the battle, so it also will not actually go on for the entirety of the duration either. So again, trying to take on board the objections and also the understanding of the residents to make sure we are mitigating as much as possible for them. The Siege of Colchester was actually based historically on cannon fire and artillery. Obviously, we like to try and keep historically to the scripts and to the actual battle as much as possible, but we are really taking into account where we can here the residents and making sure that, you know, we can represent that as much as possible historically, but within the confines and understanding of the residents. Also, as regards to the marshals, yes, you know, I know Mr. and Mrs. Marsden have got a whole team of marshals ready actually for public to make sure that, again, they are keeping within the bounds of what they are supposed to, not going anywhere near the residents. And I can confirm that with the traffic management plan, neither the public nor members of the CILDNOT Society will be going anywhere near any of the residents except within obviously emergency circumstances, and that's all. So we've allowed obviously for emergency circumstances for emergency vehicles via Lodge Cottage, and that is it, and nowhere near West Cottage or the other residents, and that will only be in emergency circumstances. And as regards to the amplified sound, we do have PAs. They again are very small standing speakers. They are actually directed purely to the public, and that is all. So again, in the direction of the sound, they are also away from the cottages themselves as well, and they don't travel very far at all. Okay, so it should be said there will be no interference from them either. And 24-hour contact as part of the residence pack. My name and my phone number will be personally there. I also will be having a decibel meter reading, of which I will be, there all weekend. I'm fully expecting that we will have visits from such individuals as the environmental team, which we fully welcome. And we also then, as the event organizer and with my 24-hour contact, ultimately I have the authority as the event organizer to make changes to, shut down or curtail anything that is required if things actually go outside or we require any changes to things. So that is part of the residential pack, and they will be able to reach me if they need to. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that? Okay, thank you.
If everybody's happy, they've asked all they need to ask. We will now retire and come back with our decision. So thank you all. Yep, we'll do. Mr. Folger, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Lovely. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for your patience. So, obviously, we've had our deliberations. So, the subcommittee has given careful consideration to this application, the premises being Alresford Hall, Ford Lane, Alresford, Colchester, Essex, CO7 8AY. The application was summarised by Michael Cook, who is TDC's licensing manager. In summary, he stated that the application is in relation to a time-limited licence. The application is for a historical event to allow for the sale of alcohol on the premises, performance of live music, performance of play during the period of the 21st and 25th of May 2026. The reenactors for the event have a separate camping field. He stated that all other emergency bodies have been consulted. He also stated that the event had been reviewed by the Tender and Safety Advisory Group, which also includes Essex Police and other external bodies. Representation was made by the Council's environmental team, but withdrawn following provision of a noise impact assessment and a noise management plan, and that 7 representations were received from members of the public. The application Mrs. Marsden presented alongside Mr. Marsden and Colonel Jenny Davies from Sealed Knot. In making representations, Mrs. Marsden stated that Sealed Knots has over 50 years of experience with such events. The event includes controlled evening activities for the enactors only. The event has been safely carried out for the years it has taken place. An independent acoustic was commissioned with a noise management plan provided. She stated that there was active monitoring, activities limited from just 2 till 4 p.m, with reduced charges, no firing towards residential areas. The environmental team is satisfied that there is unlikely to be a nuisance. Since submission of the objections, the raised issues have been dealt with or mitigated. She addressed various other concerns raised by objectors, such as black powder, stating that its use is confined to the battlefield area. It was said that there were just 2 generators for traders and highly unlikely to impact residents. In relation to waste, it was said that all waste collections will take place during the day. As regard complaints relating to the use of the estate lane, it was said that event traffic will be routed through Wyvenwood. There will be no traffic or residents passing through the estate, but for emergency. Stewards will be in place as well as marshals. There are cordoned off exclusion zones inside the estate to protect the privacy of the residents. It was also said that there is a medical team and the ambulance, and use of black powder is subject to strict control, amongst others. In relation to crime and disorder, in regard to alcohol, it was said that the reenactors' campsite is private. There is an incident log and a challenge 25, amongst others. It is said to be a family-focused event, and there are safeguarding protocols in place. Attendance at the event is said to be controlled and managed by ticketing. It is time limited, and Sealed Knots has a reputation of running events efficiently. It was said that the concerns raised have been dealt with or subject to controls. There will be 4 horse boxes coming via the private gates of Ford Lane. There will be marshals stationed on the site for 24 hours, and ticket sales will be capped at 3,000, and they are not quite there yet. The chair addressed Mr. Folger, asking if he had any questions for the applicant. Mr. Folger then stated that he could not hear. He did not indicate this, and the chair checked with the objector, and he said it's fine for the meeting to proceed. In making his admission, Mr. Folger reiterated his objection to the application, stating that there is improper visibility and it is not a modest function. It involves roaring cannons, camping, alcohol, amongst others. Reference was made to TDC's own policy, i.e. section 5.2, 5.3. He stated there is no known comparable event. He stated that the way the application has been communicated has been concerning. There is concerns over parking amongst others. He stated that it's a quiet rural area and is a shared estate with fundamental residential character. He stated the various elements assessed had been assessed in isolation, and that is the central flaw. He said residents are particularly concerned with noise, alcohol related noise, people leaving the marquee, which he believes will create a disruption. Should it be granted, he proposed severely restricting the event, including a number of shots to be fired if the committee is minded to grant the application. Another concern is the consumption of alcohol by reenactors into late in the night. The Council has considered statutory guidance and the licensing authority's policy in reaching its decision. We have taken into account the views expressed by the applicant, the objectors, and our licensing team in relation to this application. The subcommittee has also considered the licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. The application has been determined on its own merit, and the decision of the subcommittee is to grant the application as requested, with the following conditions applied. Number 1 is challenge 25. Number 2, stewards to monitor licensable areas, and any incidents must be reported to the event management and recorded. 3, stewards to assist with crowd management and emergency access routes to be maintained at all times. 4, the premises licence holder shall ensure that at all times there will be a competent persons able to administer first aid, and that an adequate and appropriate supply of first aid equipment and materials are available on the premises. A record of any first aid treatment shall be taken and maintained at the premises. Number 5, horse boxes to go through Ford Lane alongside larger vehicles as specified at the hearing. 6, all reenactors and members of the public will enter the site via the Wyvenwood main entrance gates, using established access points designed to accommodate visitor traffic, with the exception of the vehicles moving animals, as these cannot traverse the Wyvenwood grounds. Number 7, resident access via the estate lane must remain fully open and unrestricted throughout the event. Number 8, traffic and parking must be managed within the estate. Number 9, the premises licence holder shall ensure that a contact telephone number for a responsible person at the premises is made available to local residents upon request. The number shall be monitored at all times while the licence is in effect and shall be updated whenever personnel changes. All recommendations contained within the noise impact assessment and noise management plan set out by Sharps Redmore acousticians dated April 2026 are to be implemented during associated events. Anyone aggrieved by this decision can appeal to the Magistrates' Court within the relevant statutory period. You will get notification of this decision in 5 days. Thank you, everyone. And the date of the next scheduled meeting of the Premises Personal Licence Subcommittee is to be held at a date and time not yet specified. Thank you all, and I close the meeting.